even out. What day is it? Look at you cheating. Day 16. I'd say lecture day 16, but we're doing a review. We will dive into the actual like exam thing at 3 when we start the regular class. But this is where, like, if you got questions, we as in me and the mouse in my pocket have got answers. Keith posed this question on the board and it was do the inverse. I don't know if this was on the midterm or not. Is this from the midterm?
Oh, no, that's a different question.
Cause I'm like, I'm gonna be solving this later. I'm gonna be mad if you give me a midterm question. Don't give me a midterm question. We're gonna go through this later. So find the inverse and then domain and range. So one way to do it is jump straight to the inverse. I'm actually not going to. I am going to get a common denominator first by turning that 1 into a 2x minus 3 over 2x minus 3. Because this is still 1, right?
Yes.
I pull a bunch of pens from my pocket. I got 3 green pens and no blue pens. How is that possible? It still equals 1, so we haven't changed anything, but we can combine them. Adding the numerators together, we've got 2x minus 2 over 2x minus 3. Now we were going to have to do that either way, whether we flipped it, did the inverse step or not first, but I think getting it out of the way now makes it a little easier to see, like, look for shit later on. So what do we do on an inverse?
We switch the y's and the x's.
That's right, swap x and y. So x equals 2y minus 2 over 2y minus 3. So fuck brackets, right? We're gonna multiply both sides by 2y minus 3. And this allows us to clear that denominator, and on the right, I have 2y minus 2. On the left, I'm going to distribute that x, and I'm going to put them in alphabetical order on that term, and do that. And now we want to collect all the y's on the same side. So I'm going to subtract 2y from both sides. And add 3x to both sides. This will move everything without a y to the right. And everything with a y to the left. And we want to remember our goal is isolate y. So here I can factor a y out. If I factor the y out, I have 2x minus 2 times y. And finally, we get y by itself by dividing by 2x minus 2. And we get y, which is going to be like f inverse. Let's say that was f. F inverse of x is 3x minus 2 over 2x minus 2. Now, you may be inclined to see the -2s and try to cancel out. But you can't do that. We can only cancel stuff on bottom and top. If it's multiplication that separates them, not addition or subtraction. So that's the inverse. So I'm gonna go back to y equals 2x minus 2 over 2x minus 3. Let's look at the domain of this one.
Isn't it, 3, 3/2x is, greater than. 3.
Well, the 3/2, where are you getting that from?
Cause with the greater than or equal to sign. And then I brought the -3 over. And then,
Okay, so hold on one second. Doesn't need to be positive. What can make this problem not work?
yeah, if it's negative, yeah,
Hold on, like where would we have problems graphing this? What causes problems in mathematics with this thing?
if it's negative, right?
No, we have negative stuff on graphs all the time. The denominator cannot equal 0. Right? We know the denominator can't equal 0. Well, we can find out what the denominator can't equal if we set it equal to 0 and say, can't do that. So you add the 3 to both sides, you get 2x equals 3, divide by 2, and you get x cannot equal 3/2. So one way of saying the domain is that. That's the domain.
Would you want us to graph it as well? Do you want us to graph it?
No,
No.
unless I specify graph it, I don't think I do. Another way of writing a domain is doing interval notation. Doing negative infinity up to 3/2. But with parentheses, because we don't include the 3/2, and then doing union 3/2 to infinity. These two mean the same thing. I wonder if this can be less than 0. There might be range issues. Let me plot this on Desmos, because graphing it by hand is tedious.
Well, it's like a 1.5.
Yeah, it goes everywhere. In fact, it looks like. Okay, so it's a little hard to see what the range is going to be. But we know that the domain of the f of x, this is f of x, is the same thing as the range of f inverse. And the domain of F inverse is the same as the range of F. So if we find the domain of F inverse, we can find the range of the original one.
So, we set the bottom, to not equal,
Set the bottom to not equal 0.
and then subtract 2 from both sides.
When you get it, you'll get x equals 1, not equal 1. Which means this is gonna be negative infinity to 1 in union with 1 to infinity. So it's a little hard to find the range directly off of that thing, but if you treat it as looking at the domain of the inverse, domain is easy to identify. You guys ready for more? Does anyone need this up longer? I see pins still moving, so I don't wanna. Alright. What else you guys wanna talk about? If you let him, Keith will pick every single question, so if you have a question you wanna look at. That isn't on the thing that we're doing, and
How smart, how does it go? Struggling.
yeah, you did most of that problem on the board by yourself. Jackie, you got a question?
No, sorry. I didn't realize I unmuted. I was looking.
You said juvenile delinquent, I think I mispegged that boy.
He's already writing an apology letter.
Is he doing it because he was told to, or because he felt like it?
He felt bad. You can see that he felt bad, but
So he's doing it on his own? That's
he wasn't
impressive.
doing it on his own. I know. No, his
No.
emotions were on his own. I told him that he should, but I don't know. He's been able to reflect on it. He doesn't feel okay.
Any questions, anybody? We're gonna let Keith have it, and no one's got anything.
Most of my questions are on the exam, like just kind of going over examples on that as far as like the square roots and isolating one of the square roots and solving for x in those square roots.
Okay, let me grab one of those problems.
Okay.
Yeah, that was glorious. Who's there? Let's play that game. Who is there, Keith? Don't leave me hanging. I have no idea which one of these I did on the exam, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't that one.
Or. Let's see. Why you let me hear you, man?
I'm giving people time to write it down. This is the problem. So to solve this, we need to separate the radicals. We gotta get one on one side, one on the other. This free floating one, there's not a lot we can do about it, so we're gonna have to leave it on one of the sides. Where it is, works for me. We're just gonna leave that fucker alone. I'm gonna move the -1 because that way I have all positive shit and I like positive shit. Now, we will square both sides. It's important to recognize that the left side is this. Which means we gotta do some distributing or FOIL. The right side, the square root and the square just cancel out. So if I distribute over here, I got 1. And I have plus 2 times the square root of 1 minus 2x. And then I have plus 1 minus 2x. If you multiply that out, you'll see that I didn't do the middle step where I showed each thing. But we do the 1 times 1, we get that. We do 1 times this one, we get 1 of these. We do this times this, we get the other one, so there's 2 of them. And when we multiply the last terms, the square root goes away. So at this point, I'm gonna combine everything together and see what it looks like. That's the left side that I've got. 1 plus 1 is 2 minus 2x equals 1 minus x. And I am going to move everything except the radical over. We need to get the radical by itself.
I'm confused. Where did you get the 2 minus 2x?
I added this one and that one to get the 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then the minus 2x is already there.
Well, where'd you get the first 2? Like the 1 plus 2, how did that happen?
So when I distribute here, I get 1 of them. This is like saying 2 apples. I got 1 apple here and I got 1 apple here.
Yeah, I still don't understand. I don't understand like how you got the 1 plus 2.
Okay, I'm gonna show it out.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna make you show me. How do I distribute this? Because I know you know how to distribute.
Yeah,
You're just not seeing something that's there for you. So
You
what do
have
I do to
to-
distribute?
1 times 1.
Gives me a 1.
Right.
Now what?
And then 1 times the square root 1 minus 2x.
That gives me this.
Okay. And then
Now-
it'd be the same thing because you want to do the square root of it.
Do that one.
Uh-huh.
And now
Okay.
do last.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So that one is this one.
Okay.
This 1 minus 2x is that.
Okay.
I have 1 of these plus 1 of these makes 2 of those.
Oh, okay. That makes sense now. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm. All right, back to where we were at. All right, so we can divide by the 2, and if we do, I'll just look at over here what we're gonna have. Now we're gonna have to square both sides. And this is gonna lead to squaring a fraction and just having fraction shit go on. Which is doable, but most people don't like fractions. So let's avoid the fraction route for now. Let's just square both sides. This is 2 squared times square root of 1 minus 2x squared. This is x minus 1 times x minus 1. This is going to be 4 times 1 minus 2x. This equals x squared minus 2x plus 1.
We combine like terms.
Yeah, we gotta distribute first, but we're gonna get everything on one side. Combine some like terms. I'll move everything to the right. And get x squared plus 6x minus 3. And 0 on the left. So this is gonna lead to, I can't factor it. So it's gonna have to be a quadratic formula. A is 1, B is 6, C is -3. So we're gonna do the quadratic formula. We've got negative B, which is -6, plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times A times C, which is -3. All over 2 times A, which is 2 times 1. All right, so if we clean this up a little bit. This is -6 plus or minus square root of 48. Over 2. Which is -6 plus or minus 4 root 3 over 2. So I'm gonna write it up here what we get. We get x equals -3 plus or minus 2 root 3.
Do you want it like that, or do we leave it in decimal?
Well, this is the exact answer, so you should definitely, if this is a question like this is on the test, you want the exact answer. Now, to see, we gotta check our work because we had square roots. So like to check our work though, it might be easier to use the decimal. So 2 to our square root of 48, or 2 times the square root of 3. So this is like -3 plus or minus 3.46. Which gives us a -6.46 or a positive 0.46.
Knock knock,
Who's there?
party,
Bart who?
oh no, not far you. Um.
I was walking through the John Muir building and they have a club over there called the Gas Club. Now, I'm pretty sure it's the Astronomy Club. But I saw that name right as I had the urge to fart. I thought, I need to be part of the Gas Club. All right, so we're gonna come back up here to our original equation. Which one of these answers doesn't work? Or if none of them work, none of them. Or if they both work, they both work. Can I eliminate negative 6.46 or positive 0.46?
I would guess 0.46.
Well, plug it in and see. Doing 1 minus 0.46 is works. That would give us 0.54. And 2 times that is about 0.92. So 1 minus 0.92 is like 0.08. They both fit in there, so maybe we're gonna actually have to like do the calculations. And so that means ugliness abounds.
Pretty cool.
So let's check them both. The negative 6.46. I did some rounding. I'm gonna add a lot more decimals here. There's a 4. There's a 101615. So we've got 1 minus square root of 1 minus that big old blah 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 blah. Plus square root of 1 minus 2 times that big old blah blah blah. So let's see if we get what we get when we put that in the calculator. So I've got 1 minus the square root. There should be 2 negatives here. So that's gonna be a plus. Sir. Plus the square root. Parentheses 1 minus 2 times the answer. And I'm getting 2. It's not 0. Check the other one. So we're doing 1 minus square root of 1 minus that answer plus square root of 1 minus 2 times that answer.
point.
A bunch of shit. Means that maybe neither of them work. And I check it, it does most real quick. And if we look at the graph of it. We want where y equals 0 here. This graph doesn't touch the x-axis. There is no solution to this problem.
Oh,
So our check actually was right. Neither of these worked because they didn't equal 0. Which is crazy. Usually you can just plug in the numbers right away and see if they work. Here we actually had to work it out and find nothing worked. I might have to double check my question on the midterm and make sure it's got something that's a little easier to figure out than that. 'Cause that's a bitch, right? I'll check that tonight. I didn't actually do all the exam questions yet. I just grabbed questions that I saw that I go, these look like fun. Lauren would enjoy these. She would ask for more. Yes, you would. Take your head down.
The midterm is today, but
No,
it's not,
no.
but it was today. It says the 18th on the campus.
Have you read any of the announcements that I posted or listened to me in
Not the
class at
recent.
all? Have you listened to me talk at all?
A little.
Like you've been singing here, you just ignore me?
On Tuesdays, yes. On Thursdays, no.
Wow, fuck, what? Well, either way, we said this last Thursday, not on Tuesday.
Oh,
I flat out said, what are we doing today, class?
midterm review.
We're doing the review. I'm gonna go over the practice exam and show you how to do them all. Thursday's the midterm.
perfect.
Mr. Jones, Professor Jones, speaking of going over there to like where the biology and the chemistry and everything. Why don't scientists like trust atoms?
Don't like what?
Why don't scientists trust atoms?
I don't know why.
Because they make everything for even force. They make up everything even force.
This was a terrible joke. You should be embarrassed to told it. Not quite as embarrassed as not paying attention to the teacher half the fucking lectures. That's bold to tell me. That takes, I don't have balls that big.
You gotta respect it.
I do, I gotta kind of respect the honesty there. It's like, yeah, I fucking take you out on Tuesdays. What are you gonna do about it?
It's not on purpose. I do try to pay attention.
Like, what's going on Tuesdays that,
I work in the mornings, like at 5 in the morning, and then on Mondays I close, so I don't go home until like midnight.
so you're really tired?
Yeah, and I just zone out.
You get home at midnight and class is at 2.
I go home at midnight
says
on
keep
Mondays, and then I
focus.
work Tuesday mornings at 5 in the morning.
Okay, so
That's a close
I'll
one.
keep that in mind. On Tuesdays, if I have something that I need you to hear, I'm gonna get up and walk over and stand next to you while I say it. So that maybe like just the close proximity will make you uncomfortable enough to pay attention. That's good enough.
Just staring at me will make me uncomfortable enough.
Or read the announcement.
I don't get notifications from this much.
You shouldn't need notifications. You should check announcement, check, you gotta go on Canvas. Like you're going there, I assume, to get to the homework, right?
I get notification like every class, so.
And just
I
mine
just-
aren't.
I
with
just
it.
do that to go.
There's a reason, like the notifications, like are worth, if it's an announcement, there's a reason why teachers are giving an announcement. If it's just like, here's a notification that another assignment is due,
Yeah, I get notifications for every.
but if it says announcement, read it. Like, no one's wasting their time to,
I'll do it. No.
well, that's not true. I have sent messages that are not essential. Like the one where, see, NASA does have gamers, that was not an essential to your education.
Yeah,
So I guess not all of my announcements are important. Michelle, you said you had questions on logs. What, could you be a little more specific?
I mean, everything, it still doesn't, I still don't get it.
Have you tried doing any of the homework?
Yeah, I don't know, it's just not sticking with me. I could probably rewatch the videos, but I kind of want to do like a question of logarithms, like just the basics of it.
So like the basics of logarithms are. If I have y equals 2. I'm on the wrong thing. Thank you. If I have y equals 2 to the x, this is the same thing as log base 2 of y equals x. That's just like the rules. And it doesn't have to be a 2, it's any base. So I'll just change it to a b. B for base, maybe we'll make it a capital B.
Shouldn't that first one be x equals b to the y power?
If you would like it that way, it's gonna change what's here though.
Oh, never mind, I see it. There's a log of x, okay.
Like the exponent is always what ends up by itself. In the log form.
Basically, just like what you need to multiply a certain number by a certain power to get this specific number.
Yeah. So if we had something like. Just looking at some basic stuff, log 3 of 3 equals x,
Was one,
it's 1. And that's because I can rewrite this in this form. B is 3. The exponent is the x. And the y is the other side. Well, the only way 3 to the x equals 3 to the first power. If the bases are equal, the exponents have to be equal, so x equals 1. This is true for any base. Log b of b equals 1. Log b of 1
0.
is 0. We can see that by doing the same thing here. B to the x equals 1. Well, I can write the right side, it's a little less intuitive. That's the same thing as b to the 0. And again, if the bases match, the exponents match.
Oh. Is there a microwave anywhere in here?
yeah, it's all the way, you gotta go by like the store or whatever.
There's one near the bookstore, right?
Yeah,
And I imagine upstairs, the Student Success Center probably has one. Whether they're open at 3 o'clock, I don't know, I think they are. I don't know that that's any closer than going over to building A. So if we have. X to the n in here. I'll use capital N. This is equal to having the n out front as a multiplier. So like, this is a good rule to know. This is a good rule to know. This is almost mandatory to know. The rest of stuff, those two you could figure out with a calculator with a little time. This is like calculator can't do this shit for you. And the walkthrough of how to do it is in last week's 335 video on. We did it in 335, we walked through how the formula was generated. The other ones that if we have multiplication on the inside. This turns into addition on the outside. And it's related to these exponent rules. We did the proof of that as well. If you have division, it turns to subtraction. Those are a couple more rules to memorize. These make great flashcards. Right, one side of the equation on one side and the other side of the equation on the other side. But don't take, you know. Are you looking at more fart jokes, Keith? Why are you giggling? You have too much fun with this.
Be my last day.
Wait, what?
This might be one of my last days here.
Why?
Well, I don't know if I'm gonna pass the test.
Fucking killing me, Keith.
Yeah, me neither. I feel like my brain was just put through a microwave with all this.
Well, you guys got a couple days to study up.
I'm gonna take up your offer on crying during the exam.
I'm just gonna walk.
Yeah, Keith said, I'll bring a bottle. Maybe I'll arrange for some tissues, but tissues I have to throw away. A bottle of tears I can cherish forever. Any questions? Those are the basics. Is there anything more specific you want about that?
I'm
We're
already
gonna go through some of like the examples that are on the midterm. We'll see in a
already-
second.
yeah, I'm already confused as is. I'm not even gonna get into natural logarithms.
The natural log is just making this b equal e. And e is just a number, like pi, you know pi from circles,
Yeah,
3.14, you don't need to memorize them all though. E is just a number, in fact, you can see it on a calculator. I can say e to the first power. And it tells me what it equals. It's just a number. Natural logarithm is using that as the base. And you're like, where the fuck did they figure that out? I don't know. I am not Isaac Newton. I am not, like, I know how to do this shit, but figuring this shit out, I don't know how to do this. Like something like this, these numbers. A lot of equations you can figure out, but like figuring out E, I don't know where they figured out fucking E. I'm sure it shows up in enough nature things that they were solving those and just calculated what it had to be. The same thing with pi. I'm sure they found pi by just finding a circle that had an area of 1. Or a radius of 1 and figuring out what the area is. They knew the circle was something times r squared, they didn't know what it was. For the area, I don't know. But you don't need to know to use it. Like none of you know how these fucking phones are made. You might know that there's a fucking building that fucking puts the shit together. And it has little tiny fucking parts and electricity goes through it. But that doesn't explain to me how I can talk to somebody in fucking Japan. In fucking real time, or video chat with someone in in Russia in real time. Like picturing places across the world. Or how they can chat with people at the fucking International Space Station on a camera. That's some deep shit. How does electricity going through fucking metal do that? Ah. Well, I don't even know how it works to know how to use my fucking computer. I'll play a mean video game while you guys are testing. I'm gonna be up here playing fucking Dark Souls, I guarantee you. Well, I'm gonna do the practice or the exam first, make sure there are solvable answers. I'll probably do that tomorrow. That way I can just sit up here and game.
I didn't know you were gonna do the exam while we were doing.
I was, but then I realized I've learned that's bad. Every time I've done that. It has invariably bitten me in the ass for one problem. There's always one problem that I thought, that's gonna go well. And then as soon as I start doing it, this is not fucking, this is like way. More complicated, or the answer is so atrocious. That every student in the fucking class, even if they get it right, is gonna go, nope, that's not it, and erase it. Which is bad. And stop recording.
How long do you think it would take you to finish the final exam for the midterm, like 20 minutes?